crazy billionaire, Bill Gates, says there's too many of us. His thing by 2030 is to depopulate the planet, and I just wondered, like, are we part of the population that he wants to Says there's too many of us. And he says it. And people go, it's a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy theory. He said it. Bill Gates, you go and see on YouTube. He says one of the goals by 2030 is to lower the population of the planet. And one of the ways to do that is using vaccines. It's like, what? And people go, no, that's a conspiracy theory. So he said it. You can go see. He said, yeah, but it's a conspiracy theory to think, he meant what he said. He meant it. He's doing it. And it's working.
So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Agenda 2030 covers from 2015 to 2030. Again, it's a comprehensive plan over every area of our lives. It's kind of a subset of Agenda 21. And as the leaders of the United Nations made clear while this was being debated and adopted, they intend to leave no one behind. Actually, the head of the General Assembly, when this was being negotiated, Peter Thompson, called this the Master Plan for Humanity. The Secretary General at the time, Ban Ki-moon, called it the Global Declaration of Interdependence, which I believe was a direct attack on our National Declaration of Independence here in this country. So very, very significant. Again, it deals with every area. It deals with your health. It deals with the environment. It deals with our food systems. It deals with education. It deals with every possible area of life, very much like the Great Reset that the World Economic Forum would later propose. And so all of these actually work together. That's what people need to understand. None of these are independent. They're all working together, ultimately for the same objective, which we described earlier in the program, a one world system.
To go from 1 billion, to reach 1 billion, but then only about 200 years to get to 8 billion. So that was massive and fast. Could the decline be just as quick?
Well, that's the part we don't know. Was that if we underestimated anything, it was the speed at which this was going to happen. COVID was certainly an accelerator to this. The aging of the population is taking place faster, and fertility decline is taking place faster than we anticipated.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
It took 300,000 years for the global population to reach 1 billion, but only about 200 years to go from 1 billion to 8 billion. But all that growth is slowing down, and based on current birth rates, it will eventually stop. The United Nations projects that the global population will peak at 10.4 billion before the end of the century, and then decline. Other projections say it will happen even earlier.
A while ago, a piece for Bloomberg Opinion on the peaking of the global population and the consequence of that. I have heard from various people in and around Wall Street that has been a very influential piece. People are very concerned about that over the long run. First of all, give us the facts of where we think we are now, where we're headed in terms of population growth.
Now are facing significant population declines, not only in Asian countries that drastically reduced family size, but right across the globe except in Africa. And it looks as if, although you can debate the exact timing, humanity will peak, get to the maximum population, probably some way below the 10 billion mark. And after that, population is going to decline, and decline pretty steeply.
A little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. Of reducing population growth, that's this big benefit. The key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that. We're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the... So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
You say the next pandemic. There will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when.
If we really want to prevent the next pandemic, and there will be one, there will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic.
Of reducing population growth, that's this big benefit.